It was my freshman year at Princeton. I had been assigned a dorm room right across from Nassau Hall, the oldest and most historic building on campus. It's the heart of Princeton's history, built in 1756. It once served as the nation's capital during the American Revolution. During the day, the area buzzed with students and tourists snapping photos. But after midnight, it was a different world. One night in late October, I pulled another one of those brutal all-nighters. It was just after 3 a.m. when I finally packed up my laptop and headed back to my room. The night was crisp and cold, and Nassau Hall loomed across the way, its massive stone facade lit only by the flicker of an old street lamp. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was just a late-night groundskeeper, an old man in a dark suit standing at the bottom of the building's steps. He was staring at the heavy oak doors, completely still, almost reverent. I didn't think much of it until I noticed something strange. He wasn't casting a shadow. Everything else, the trees, the lamppost, even the trash cans, threw long dark shadows across the ground. Except him. A deep chill spread through my chest. I turned and hurried into my dorm, locking the door behind me. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I could picture that figure, still, silent, gazing at the doors as if waiting for something, or someone. The next night, curiosity got the better of me. Armed with nothing but my phone and a ridiculous sense of bravado, I snuck back outside around the same time. Nassau Hall stood silent under the moonlight. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then, just as I was about to turn away, I heard it. The heavy creak of the oak doors swinging open. I froze. There was no one standing by the door. No movement. Just the slow groan of the hinges, and then, silence. I backed away, heart racing, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. In the open doorway, framed by the dark, I saw him again. The same old man. Only this time, he wasn't standing still. He was slowly climbing the stairs, floating just inches above the stone. I ran. Later, desperate for some kind of rational explanation, I started asking around. An older security guard, one who'd worked at Princeton for over 20 years, finally gave me an answer. Or rather, a warning. "You saw Professor Wharton," he said, voice low. He told me that back in the 1800s, a professor by that name, Wharton, had dedicated his entire life to Princeton, even refusing prestigious offers elsewhere. But after a bitter dispute with the trustees over new curriculum changes, Wharton had been dismissed. Heartbroken and humiliated, he reportedly suffered a stroke just steps from Nassau Hall, and died alone. Some say his spirit never left. He returns every October, in the dead of night, to the building he devoted, and lost, his life to. Still waiting for a chance to walk its halls again. I don't go near Nassau Hall after midnight anymore. And if you ever find yourself there, walking past that heavy oak door, listen carefully. You just might hear the slow creak of a door swinging open for someone who can never come home again. I had always thought ghost stories were just that, stories. Something people passed down to scare freshmen or add a little drama to Princeton's already heavy history. But my second year living on campus changed that. Blair Hall is one of the most iconic buildings at Princeton. It stretches across the south end of campus like a medieval fortress, its towering stone archways and narrow windows giving it a kind of cold majesty. Tourists loved it. Students avoided it at night. I lived in a room on the third floor, just above one of the main arches. My window overlooked the courtyard, a place that should have been peaceful at night. But as fall crept in and the nights grew longer, something changed. It started small. Footsteps. Every night, around 2 a.m., I would hear them, steady, deliberate, walking beneath the arch. At first, I figured it was late-night walkers, students coming back from parties or study sessions. But when I looked outside, the courtyard was empty. One night, I decided to stay up and watch. I sat at my window, lights off, staring down into the moonlit courtyard. Exactly at 2:03 a.m., the footsteps began. But this time, I saw him. A boy, maybe 18 or 19, wearing old-fashioned clothes, a long wool coat, dark trousers, a leather satchel slung over his shoulder. He walked calmly through the arch, and then vanished mid-step. Not turned a corner, not slipped into the shadows. Vanish. As if he had never been there at all. I froze, unable to move for what felt like hours. When I finally stumbled back into bed, I barely slept a wink. The next day, I asked around. Most people laughed it off. But one older maintenance worker, Mr. Hargrove, pulled me aside. "You saw Daniel, didn't you?" he said. I asked who Daniel was. Hargrove told me a story that wasn't in any of Princeton's official archives. In 1896, when Blair Hall had just been completed, a student named Daniel Avery had lived in the dorms. One rainy night, after an argument with his roommate over grades and pressures from his family, Daniel stormed out into the courtyard. He was never seen again. Search parties scoured the campus, the surrounding woods, nearby towns. Nothing. No body, no belongings, not even footprints, despite the heavy rain. It was as if the campus had swallowed him whole. Some say he got lost in the underground tunnels that supposedly connect parts of Princeton. Others say he never left at all. That every night, at exactly 2:03 a.m., Daniel tries, and fails, to walk back home. I moved rooms the next semester. I never wanted to hear those footsteps again. But sometimes, when I walk past Blair Hall after dark, I swear I hear the slow, steady echo of shoes across the stone, and feel the desperate gaze of someone, still trying to find his way back. Holder Hall was one of the first places I visited when I toured Princeton as a prospective student. The towering stone archways, the carved Gothic details, the endless ivy climbing the walls, it felt like walking into another world. A world where history lived in the stones themselves. I never thought that some parts of that history would refuse to stay buried. When I finally became a student and moved into one of Holder's dorm rooms, I was ecstatic. It felt like I had earned a place in a living monument. But after a few weeks, that excitement gave way to something much darker. It started late at night, always between 1 o'clock and 2 a.m. I would hear it, soft, muffled crying. At first, I thought it was someone on my floor, a homesick freshman maybe, or someone dealing with a breakup. But no matter how much I listened, the sound never moved. It didn't come from any particular room. It came from the courtyard, echoing softly through the stone archways. One night, curiosity, or maybe foolishness, got the better of me. I grabbed my jacket and slipped out into the cold. The courtyard was empty, bathed in pale moonlight. The crying continued, faint but clear. I followed it through the arches, past the fountain, to one of the oldest parts of the hall. That's when I saw her. A woman, standing alone beneath one of the stone archways. She wore a long, flowing dress, out of place, like something from 100 years ago. Her head was bowed, her face hidden by her hands. Her body shook with silent sobs. I called out, thinking maybe she needed help. She didn't respond, didn't even seem to hear me. I took a step closer. Without lifting her head, she turned away and disappeared into the stone wall itself. No sound, no trace, just gone. I stood there frozen, my breath fogging in the cold air. Then I ran. The next day, still rattled, I mentioned it to my RA. I expected him to laugh, to tell me I'd imagined it. Instead, he just nodded grimly. "You met the widow of Holder," he said. The story, as it goes, dates back to the early 1900s. A young professor had fallen in love with a woman from town, a relationship that was frowned upon by the university's strict social standards at the time. One night, after an argument, she came to Holder Hall to plead with him to change his mind, to fight for them. He never showed up. Heartbroken and humiliated, she reportedly drowned herself in Lake Carnegie, the lake just a short walk from campus. Some say she still comes back to Holder Hall, still searching for the man who abandoned her. And if you hear her crying, whatever you do, don't follow. Because if you do, You might just join her, wandering the stone corridors for eternity. Want more true horror stories from real haunted places? Hit subscribe and turn on